One of the announcements I forgot is that after service, you are invited to the spaghetti dinner to help raise funds for the kids that are going to the gathering in Detroit. That's in July, right? So, if you want to stay for a spaghetti dinner, we want you to be here. Now, that first lesson is one of my favorites. I wonder if any psychiatrist has ever written about that. There's something here about pronouncing negative judgment on ourselves, which can lead to cover-up, and then can lead to blaming, and then there's a question which has always been a mystery to people. How is it that snakes move? How do they go? Then, in the second lesson, Paul says something that us older people can relate to. Not only relate to, but take some hope. And then Jesus, I think, jolts us with his words about family. So, forming negative opinions of ourselves and then covering them up, followed by how snakes move, and then the reality of aging, part 2, and finally the way Jesus saw his family. So, you have to know that the story of Genesis comes from questions that were called etiologies. And some of the questions were, where does evil come from? Why do women have pain in childbearing? How do snakes walk? And why do people have to work so hard to make a living? And the story of Genesis, which was written not when it happened, but during the exile, to show the nations around Israel who their God was, the creator of the universe, answers some of those questions. So Adam and Eve, the story says, disobeyed God. And then they heard God coming. He heard his footsteps. So they hid, already feeling guilty for what they had done. And God calls, Adam, Adam, where are you? And then Adam comes out from the tree. He says, I'm hiding. Why were you hiding? God says. Because I was naked. Changing the subject, Adam says. Who told you that? Have you been eating from the tree I told you not to eat? He had already displayed his guilt. Did you eat from that tree I told you? So now you covered up. This story is so good. Every parent can relate to their kid's response sometimes. Brothers can relate to it. Sisters can relate to it. Everybody can relate to this story. It's not so much what we've done. It's not so much the crime that gets us in trouble. It's the cover-up. And you can remember, some of you are old enough to remember a man named Richard Nixon who lost his spot as president because of the cover-up. Not so much because of the crime. The crime may be horrible, but it's the cover-up that usually convicts us. I've wondered now about the snake. Here it says, well, there's a song, snake, the serpent came around that trunk, and at Miss Eve his eye he wunk. Now, the snake comes along, tempts Eve to tempt Adam, and then Adam says, But God says, why did you eat from that tree I told you not to eat from? And Adam says, well, it was my wife. And if you read farther in the story, her punishment becomes the pain in bearing children. And then the wife says, it wasn't me, it was the snake. He told me that it would be all right to eat from that tree. So first, the guilty conscience is shown by confessing that he's naked and nobody told him he was. Secondly, he blames his wife. And thirdly, she blames the snake. Now, how do snakes get around? You ever see them? You ever see a snake?
On their belly.
But they just go. No arms, no feet, they just go. Do you know how they go? I don't know how they go. Does anybody know how they go? They just go. Well, so as a punishment, God says to the snake, on your belly you will go from now on, and I'll put enmity between you and people from now on. Do you know anybody that really likes snakes? Oh, I got a couple. But most people don't like snakes. And you know why? The story says it's because God set it up that way in punishment for tempting the woman to eat from the tree God told him not to eat from. Well, anybody that tempts an innocent person to do something wrong in our world is referred to as a snake. And nobody likes them either. I don't think. Maybe there are a couple. Okay, so first there's guiltiness. My mother used to always say, what did you do now? Because I had this guilty look on my face. What have you? And then I would say, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Yes, you did. But I hadn't done anything. I had the curse of living with a guilty look on my face. All right, let's move on. A word to the aging from Paul. A word so that we do not lose heart. Even though our outer nature is wasting away, our inner nature is being renewed day by day. It's pretty hard for older people to deny that our outer nature is wasting away. Every once in a while I notice a new pain that I hadn't had before shows up, or I try to do something that was so easy for me to do that becomes harder and harder. You know, I play the guitar. Used to play a lot of songs in the key of C. Well, my hands now are so crippled, I can't play in C anymore, so I have to move things to the next note near, which is the key of D. So if you notice that I sing a little bit higher than you used to sing, because I can't play in C anymore. Okay? No one needs to tell older people that we are wasting away, because our bodies tell us. But every day, here's the hope, we have more and more to be thankful for. Every single day. Every once in a while when I'm feeling like, well, I had that cough and I thought this might be the end of me. I thought, well, I got one more day. I mean, I'm up and around, so I got one more day. I better enjoy it. One more day to be thankful for. A week ago, Thursday, Janet and I and the family of Shannon had the wonderful opportunity to watch the graduation ceremony, where our granddaughter, I don't have any buttons anymore because they're all popped, graduated number 1 in a class of 377 and gave the valedictorian speech. So, and she's not only smart, she's, of course, beautiful. It was a button-popping day. we have more and more to be thankful for each day. Each day, I said that. I have asked us older ones to make the faith that we have more obvious, because it is still something that we can do. We used to sing a song, I don't sing it much anymore. I've got a mansion just over the hilltop in that bright land where we'll never grow old, and someday I'll never more wander, but walk on streets that are pure as gold. With that kind of imagery, will the circle be unbroken? With that kind of, or how about the other one? Some bright morning, when this life is over, I'll fly away. With all these images that we can put in our hearts about what Paul says is waiting for us, we ought to be able to move forward with delight in our eyes, our heart, and twinkles in our eyes, and displaying the faith that we practiced since we were children.
Amen.
As we get older and older, to make our faith more obvious to others. I was at the graduation party just Friday, and some people that hadn't seen me in a long time, and I hadn't seen them, talk. What are your plans? What are you doing this summer? We told them, how old are you? And I thought, no way. And I said, yeah, wait, I'm 76.
Oh, wow.
And you're still doing all that stuff? I said, yeah. Now, you've all heard me say this. I'm going to give up preaching when I fall asleep during one of my own sermons. So outside we are becoming weaker and weaker, while on the inside we ought to be becoming stronger and stronger. At 76, my less than big and strong condition, I've learned just this weekend that I'm still able to help. I'm able to schlep chairs and schlep tables and clean things up in the yard for the party. We worked our tuckuses off. Party was nice. At this age and next age and whatever's coming, we can still do something. Probably the most important thing is to make the faith that we have more obvious. Finally, Jesus and his jolt about family. Some time ago, Janet asked me to ask you to get up and move from where you're sitting and go sit next to somebody you don't usually sit by. And I thought that was a good idea, but I didn't want to cause that much commotion in the middle of a service. So I said, we're not going to do that, which I rarely say. So today, just imagine that you are sitting, you got up and you moved, and now you're sitting next to somebody that you've never sat next to before. And now hear what Jesus says. What he says about family values. Jesus, his brothers say, or his friends say, your mother and your brother and your sisters are outside calling for you. And Jesus didn't move. Instead he asked, who are my mother and my brother and my sister? And he pointed to the ones who were listening to him. And he said, here are my mother and my brother and my sisters. Whoever it is that does the will of my Father. I've noticed that we do build our families around the ones who are like us, who like the values that we have, who like the things to do that we like to do. They become our families. And so the implication is that those who share the lives that we love in mission are often closer to us than our own families. So, just to review. Don't be making up any bad things, any bad stuff about yourself. I had a woman come into my office one time who, my friend who grew up on a farm said, man, she had more paint on her than I seen on some barns. And anybody wear Giorgio perfume? Anybody wear that? You do not. I had to get a fan and blow out my office after she left. Don't be making up stuff about yourself that's negative. Secondly, while we are wasting away, on one hand, we are also getting stronger, or we should be. And finally, kindred hearts, kindred spirits are often more family to us than our own relatives. And that's the way it was for Jesus. Okay? I realize I rambled a little bit, but forgive me, please.